Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover. And as always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. And today on the show, we're going to try to make sense of the most recent college football ranking, how this game affected those college football playoff rankings, and what the Braves really need to do in the offseason more than what you might expect them to do. But speaking of the playoff rankings and the effect of those rankings, this is where I want to start off today, and that's Tennessee, Georgia. Back and forth game in the first half. Absolutely no doubt. And it all started with back and forth defense. And then 11:59, first play attempt for Tennessee on their first drive. Good throw, gets a pass interference for a chunk of yards. And I'm looking left, I'm looking right. Why am I looking left and right? I don't know. It's just me watching the game by myself. But it got me thinking of, there's going to be some more to come of that. I mean, first drive, 11:59, boom, big play. And I liked it based on two of what we've seen the last few weeks, them connecting against Mississippi State. Them connecting on some bigger plays against Kentucky. Nico putting more air underneath it. And that's it. Like, yes, it's Kentucky. Yes, it's Mississippi State. But it's connecting of the plays, the execution. So it's like, okay. All right. Well, more to come. But we'll see how that pass interference develops and what they do going forward with their play selection. And it didn't affect them at all, that drive either. 78-yard touchdown, about as smooth and easy of a drive as Tennessee's had in a while against a good opponent. Tennessee's up 7-0. Early on in Georgia's first two drives, drop passes. Did not help Carson Beck in the Georgia receiving core as they were trying to get some deep passes, but they dropped them. And that's not on Carson Beck when you're a wide open pass, or not necessarily wide open, but just a catchable ball to the receiver and he drops it. That's tough to swallow. So you're seeing that too, kind of affecting the way things were going in that first drive. After that punt, it was Tennessee's special teams that really set up this play as they go up 10-0 with 43 seconds left to go in the first quarter. Long punt return gives them that good field position. They go 3 and out. But Max Gilbert, it's a 52-yard field goal. And you're like, all right, here we go. You like what they're doing, where they're going offensively, how they're able to move the ball, and their play calling selection. The other thing I didn't like, it was as a whole, was the defensive line, which kind of surprised me. We'll get to more on that. But the defensive line was okay in the first quarter. Get some pressure on Carson Beck, able to knock some balls down the line on that and get their paws up. But one of the key issues to me was I couldn't sack him. He had some time just to sit back, but no sack. So that was kind of, it's like, all right, they're going to get to him. They're going to get to him. They're pressuring him some. They're on the move for him some. You're getting their paws up and knocking down some footballs. All right, there's going to be some sacks. Something big's going to happen from our defensive ends. Our defensive tackle push up the gut, see what happens. and we're going to get to Carson Beck. It's like, all right, that was promising. Start of the second quarter, Carson Beck got in his groove. Made good throws for Georgia easily for their first touchdown to start the second quarter. They're up 10-7. And it's, wow. Where's this Carson Beck been? I don't like him. I don't like what I see as a Tennessee man. I'm not liking this Carson Beck. I need 3-pick Carson Beck again. And that's what I was missing. Like I said, the issues kind of protested a little bit, started a little bit. You seen some stuff in that first quarter, but it continued in the second as Tennessee could not get any pressure on Carson Beck. He had to sit back there with his feet propped up, make passes, because Tennessee could not get home with 4 guys, 5, or even 5 guys like Ole Miss. So that means you got to bring a little more pressure. As the struggle to get the pass rush going continues, there's another easy drive for Georgia that ended in a touchdown. On that drive, Tennessee proceeds to jump off sides 3 times on that drive. And once again, no pressure on Carson Beck. He has plenty of time to throw. Georgia's up 14. It makes it 14 now. 14-10 with 6:33 before half. Ball goes back over to Tennessee. They're driving. It's 4th down. 3:36 left before half. 41-yard line, 1 yard to go. I went for it and I loved it. And here's where I loved it. They were running the football. They were going to move that football pretty well for them. Great drive, too. Started on the 25-yard line, drove down the field. They would hit a field goal and make it 17-14 with 1:54 left before half. Yeah, he left Georgia a lot of time. I believe they had a timeout or maybe 2 in that drive. But, I mean, yeah, you get love to time it out perfectly, but you can't always do that. And also, what was important about that going for it, they were to pay it off with a score. More importantly, a touchdown. To go up 17-14. I said a field goal. I don't know why I said field goal. Pay it off with a touchdown, especially when you go the length of the field, starting from the 25-yard line. You got to love that. Once again, the offense was clicking. They were moving the football. And Dylan Sampson, chunk yardage, huge yardage. You have that 17-yard scamper up the gut. And then even Peyton Lewis, 2 freshmen, was able to get some tough, good yardage as a whole on the ground. So you love that. And this is really, I think, the first time in the Heupel era that Tennessee's been able to move the ball on the ground against Georgia, which is what the Tennessee offense is based on. Running the ball and be able to run it successfully. They were able to do that. But the one interesting thing about this first half for the Vols was only had 1 big play attempt. First possession of the game, or first drive of the game. It was an interception. I mean, it was a pass interference on Georgia. So there's a chunk play there. And that surprised me a bit because Nico, he was in sync, in rhythm this game. He was throwing well, connecting with his receivers. Last 2 weeks against Kentucky and against Mississippi State, he was hitting his big passes with more consistency. I was a little bit surprised they didn't try to stretch the field. Maybe it's because he was off, basically. Probably didn't do full reps or did some reps coming off the concussion. But still, that's what part of your offense is. Stretching the field with the deep ball. So tied 17 all at half, and you're like, okay, we're in for an interesting one to see how, this shakes out. And then Tennessee's defense and the pass rush stayed in the locker room, and so did the Tennessee offense. Third quarter, my first question, 8:53 left. Where's the pass rush? Question mark. Still no sacks. And Carson Banks had plenty of time to throw the ball all over the field. Tight end, okay, yeah, here you go. Receiver, yeah, here you go. There's some chunk yards. And they were getting chunk yards, huge chunk yards. Easy drive for a touchdown with 5:20 left for Georgia. Yes, they got some penalty help on that drive. The bogus 15-yard face mask called. That wasn't a call, clearly. And also on that drive, they said they were a five-yard penalty on a third down, which gave them a first down for too many men on the field. Or they said it was too long for it took too long for a defensive lineman to get off the field after Georgia made personnel changes. So the defense is allowed to counter that with their own personnel changes. They said that you have 12 seconds to get off the field, and that's not true. They just said, quote unquote, it took them too long. They said that post game. That was it. And if you watch post game, Heupel was pissed, and I don't blame him. That potentially those two calls right there could have changed the game. Could have. I'm not blaming penalties for the loss. Absolutely not. Don't hear me on that. But I am saying there was some questionable calls that greatly affected that drive and that third quarter. So that's a Georgia touchdown. They've now taken the lead. And UT's offense has been flat this third quarter. They needed to respond with a touchdown after the Georgia touchdown and couldn't get a few first downs and had to punt. They couldn't move the ball in the third quarter. So we move on to the fourth quarter. 15:54 left in this ball game. It's on their second Tennessee's ball. They're driving. It's on their second deep shot thrown, and it wasn't close. And it's like, huh. All right. Also, too frustrating on that deep shot drive. They had a 15-play drive and had to punt the ball. They would have gone for it on a 4th and 6 on about the 45-yard line if it wasn't for that false start. That false start could have, at that time, affected the game. And it's like, does Tennessee get the ball back after this? Because could have been, like I said, could have been a game changer in a bit, and it could have affected the game either way. If you get it and score, oh, okay. Or if Georgia stops Tennessee, Georgia has good field position but in the clock. They had to punt it, and that ended up being their ball game. Georgia drove down the field and scored, And that's your 31-17 right there. But to me, the story of this game was, where's our pass rush? There's no sacks, no pressure. Only had 2 tackle for losses. And that's I don't understand that end of it. And I don't understand where the deep passes were either. Because Nico was good. He played well. 20 of 33. Some of those numbers a little bit skewed because of the last 2 minutes. Only 167 yards. And his long was a 17-yarder. Only 17-yarder was his long. So Nico was accurate. He was slicing and dicing, and he was hitting his short, intermediate passes. And Dylan Sampson was able to run that football. Over 100 yards. Again, another touchdown. And it's funny, I was talking to a Georgia fan, and he asked me, why didn't they run Sampson more? And he's like, why didn't I run him 30 times? Fair question, but Nico was throwing well. He played well. Could they have run Sampson more? Yeah, maybe. But the offense played okay. Pretty relatively clean game on the whole. It's like I wasn't super mad that Tennessee lost this game because offense played well, defense played okay. But that's it. It was okay. And I didn't think we were quite there yet to be this championship team yet. And here's why. It's going on the road. I know going on the road is tough in the SEC. I know we hear it every week, right? Whether it's true or not, it's hard. I get it. I know that. But it's been really hard for Josh Heupel. Never won in Alabama. At Alabama. Never won in Tuscaloosa. Never won in Athens. He struggled at the Swamp. He lost to Arkansas this year. Where's all that? That's the road. The road. The road. The road. You're winning at home tough big games, which is great. You get over that hump. You're not going to win them all. Tough big games at home. But you're winning majority of them. You have to. The next step for this Tennessee program is getting that tough win on the road. Whether that's in Tuscaloosa, whether that's in Athens. Yes, you got the win in Death Valley last year on a noon game where you killed LSU. You absolutely smoked them. Those have been rare. You've lost to South Carolina on the road. Obviously, Arkansas this year. I get it. It's road. It's tough. But that's the next step. The next process for Tennessee's program and Josh Heupel for them to be maybe Tennessee, we'll see what happens, to, okay, this Tennessee team, it's real. Now, not all is lost for this game for Tennessee, and it pretty much seals the fate of Georgia. And that's what I mean by the college football playoff rankings. We'll get into this SEC talk here in a little bit on the playoff ratings and where the committees place them and all that. We'll just say stuff. There's a lot of other words I want to use, but we're going to go with stuff. But the committee is like speaking out of the both sides of their mouths. And I think they are closing their eyes and pulling out, Oregon, they're number 1. Boom. Ohio State, okay, you're number 2. After that, let's see here. Flip of a coin. If it lands on heads, Texas is number 2. Number 3. If it lands on tails, Penn State's number 3, or Georgia's number 3, or whatever. That's what it feels like, because we've got a really big week. I know it's week-to-week basis. That's how we're judged every week to week, based on what happens and what we've seen in the eye test and this and that and the other. We've got a really big one this week. But based on what the committee's told us, Indiana is the 5th best team in the playoff. And that scratches, that's a head scratcher. And they've got obviously a huge one. A noon kick, big noon, against Ohio State. If Indiana loses by 2 touchdowns, how are they the 5th ranked team in the country? How are they even ranked in the top 12 of the playoff? And here's why. We were told strength of schedule matters. Clearly it doesn't at this point, based on the committee's metrics and ratings. But listen to how Indiana's strength of schedule by a few different metrics. The 106th strength of schedule in one metric, the 66th in one, the 77th in one. You average that out, they're the 83rd ranked overall strength of schedule. So you ask me, where would that be ranked in the out of the top 15 schools in conversation? Oh yeah, they're 15th in strength of schedule. Their best win, 6-5 Washington. 6-5 Washington. Now we've seen that strength of schedule matters until it doesn't. The committee's showing you that the win-loss record matters more than the strength of schedule, which they don't value. Now, you see people say, well, the SEC's got this mess with who potentially is going to the conference title game. And since they only play an 8-game schedule, it's more of an up in the air. Based on what the committee's telling me and us and the SEC this week, why are we going to schedule big Power 4 non-conference games? You don't value it. Why are we going to go schedule them? We'll schedule 4 cupcakes because the 10-0 matters a lot more than the 10-2 loss. The 2 loss, the loss column as opposed to the win column. Doesn't matter who you played, just as long as you got a 0 in the loss column. Wins not mattering as much as it's the best record you play. Now, I understand. So that's the Indiana thing. Penn State could very easily fall in the Indiana conversation as well. Better strength of schedule. Obviously, they played Ohio State. But they've lost the game their game that matters. Their big game, Ohio State. Now, like I said, we're going to move to this Tennessee, SEC, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss conversation. I get Tennessee dropping out because if you lose, you lose to Georgia. But here's my question. As it sits currently, why is Ole Miss in over Tennessee? Okay. Both have 2 losses. And both have a good win. Tennessee over Alabama, Ole Miss over Georgia. So per se, let's cancel out the Georgia and Alabama wins for both of them. Because head-to-head, to me, it matters. Obviously not to the committee, but head-to-head something. So, like, this is like the meme of the Spider-Man all pointing to each other with Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, and Tennessee in the meme, right? So we're going to dismiss the Georgia and Alabama wins as quote-unquote cancel out. Let's look at the loss column. Ole Miss loses at home to a 4-6 Kentucky team. Tennessee loses on the road to a 5-5 Arkansas team, which they've said is a good win for Texas. That's a great win for Texas, a 5-5 Texas team. I mean, a 5-5 Arkansas team, but it's a bad loss for Tennessee on the road, a 5-5 Arkansas team. You go in for Texas, bad loss for Tennessee. What that means, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. But how can it be a good win for one team and a bad loss for the other? I don't know. Based on that right there, Tennessee's played the harder schedule. And if Tennessee's played a better overall strength of schedule. So I will miss. I don't know. I'm scratching my head. Well, I don't know. Yes, there's still a lot of football left. I know. 2 weeks to go. Ole Miss got an interesting one in Florida. Tennessee's got UTEP this week. Tennessee needs to beat UTEP by about 50 because it's who you're playing, how you're playing, right? If that's a big thing I test. Put up 50 against UTEP. Put up 50 against Vandy, right? Yeah, Vandy's better. I know you're not going to put up 50, but if you can, why not? Ole Miss, he's got Florida and Mississippi State. Now, I still like where Tennessee sits. I still think they get in because you put them at 11. If and when any team loses, they're up. But also this other SEC thing, very interesting. And that's Texas. Right now, they're sitting the catbird seat at 3, with their only loss being to Georgia. But here's where the intrigue happens. What if they lose to Texas A&M? Why should a 2-loss Texas team be in the playoff? 2 losses. Their best win is Vanderbilt. Currently 6-4 Vanderbilt, who could potentially end up being a 6-6 Vandy team, as they have LSU and Tennessee upcoming. Yeah, they might beat LSU. You're at 7, and at 7-5 if they lose to Tennessee. But very easy could be 6-6. You lose to Texas A&M, and you lost to Georgia, with your best win being Vandy. Texas does not have a top 20 win this year. So they're third right now, but they're still on there, and a lot of dominoes can fall. They beat Texas A&M, sure, okay, they're in that, okay. But same conversation can be had as only for A&M if they lose to. For Texas, they lose to A&M, and A&M's not out of this thing either. They've got an outside shot. I don't think it helps that they lost to Notre Dame, obviously. But if they went out, they're in this 2-loss conversation, SEC stuff. Yes, their stuff's going to change. Obviously, it's a week-to-week thing. and what they have coming up, but it makes you not want to trust this playoff committee, and I sure as heck don't at all. Week to week thing, how you're playing, stuff matters. 1 week, some wins are good wins, even though it's the same team. It's a bad loss. It's this, it's that. I don't know. Week to week, right? And we're gonna leave it at that. Another thing that's been week to week, well, not really week to week. I just wanted to say that is this Atlanta Braves team, as good as they should be next year, they've got a lot of holes this offseason. And as weird as this sounds, they've got holes and needs at the starting pitching slot in their rotation and on this ball club. I'd love for him to re-sign Fried. Sadly, I think he's gone. Or bring in an injury-riddled potential ace, like the Chris Sale thing. I don't think that's going to happen, but anything's hard to predict with Alex Anthopoulos, what he's going to do. In all honesty, here's what the Braves really need in their rotation. They need 165 to 180 innings with a 4.7, 4.19 ERA as your 4 or 5 type starter. You think I just pulled those numbers out of the blue? No, I didn't. Where did those numbers come from? Who is that pitcher, you might ask? Well, it's one of their former Braves themselves. That's Charlie Morton. He had a 4.19 ERA, 165 innings at age 41. I would not hate Charlie Morton coming back, but his season up and down, good start, bad start. Which Charlie Morton are we getting? I would prefer another guy and that 4 or 5 type starter role. I guess you know who your top 3 are to start the season. And the key word there is to start the season. But here's why you need that 165 to 180 type innings eater guy on your staff. 1, Chris Sale threw the most innings he had in 4 years combined. And you saw how they nursed him this year, skipping starts to make sure he get through the full season so he can stay healthy and ready for the postseason. Pitching every 6th, 7th, 8th day sometimes, bringing up a starter from the minors to take one of those slots to slide him down. Ronaldo Lopez, his 135 and 2/3 innings are the most he's thrown since 2019. And he had a few IL trips as well this season. They skipped him some starts. They were good, obviously a good 139 and 2/3 innings, but it's only 139 2/3 innings. That's 2. Number 3, as much as I loved seeing him pitch, he pitched well. Spencer Schwellenbach, 123 and 2/3 innings. That's the most he's thrown in his entire life. As the most he threw was 65 innings in A-ball in 2023. In A-ball. So, where are those innings coming from? And they said Spencer Strider is not going to be healthy to start the season. So let's just say that's 2 months. Let's just say 2 months. Let's say 8 to 10 starts. That's 50 to 60 innings right there. Could be more. But let's just say 50 to 60 innings. Where's those innings going to? Is that Ian Anderson? Healthy back? Is that Bryce Anderson? Is that AJ Smith-Sawyer? Is that Griffin Canning, who they just got in the Jorge Solo chair as your 5th starter? Is that Grant Holmes coming out of the bullpen, or excuse me, starting the rotation as a starter before he moves to the bullpen? I mean, is that Hurston Waldrop? I don't think he's ready. I mean, I think the Braves' biggest hope is Smith Savier is able to make that jump. Even if he pitches 5 innings to start and it's good quality 5 innings to start, that progress that he's made that they're hoping for, all the talent in the world to get better, that's what you hope. He throws good 56 innings, and then it's like, oh, maybe you're in the rotation a little bit longer. Maybe you are become one of our guys. But I think it's going to be that shuffle. Ian Anderson, the Bryce Elder, Smith Sawyer, Hurston, Dylan Dodd might make a few starts. Alan Wines, that to see if someone throws up on a wall of sticks. I think that's what's going to be. So this staff needs innings. And even if it's just a veteran, even if it is Charlie Morton coming back, because Griffin Canning, yeah, you got him in the Jorge Soler deal, but he's going to be arbitration eligible. You can tender him a contract, or you can easily non-tender him, and it doesn't cost you anything. Could very easily be a salary dump. I think the Braves, I don't know this. We're going to see today. I'm just going to be interested to see what they do with their tender list, who they non-tender and who they tender. But that might give you a little bit, that it could give you a little bit of idea of the shape of this roster and where they want to go. But this staff needs innings. Yeah, Walker Buehler's name has been mentioned as a potential Braves signee. But usually when there's a name in the media, I feel like he's not going to be a Brave. But remember, he's coming off Tommy John, only threw 75 in a third innings. And he had a 5.38 ERA. Not lights out, obviously. Been good his whole career, no doubt. Been a stud. When healthy. Whenever you heard that before. I think it's a 3-year deal, maybe 4-year deal for Buehler. If they believe how he threw in the postseason, because he threw pretty solid in the postseason. High upside arm. Thrown over 2 innings before. That's not new. When healthy. But still, if that is the case, he only threw 75 in a third innings last year. That'd be a big jump. They would want to nurse him with some starts in between. Chris Sale process, maybe a Max Fried process too, of making sure to keep him healthy. But they need innings. And that's why that 4th, 5th starter spot is important. He doesn't have to be an 3 ERA guy. He can be a 4.5 ERA type guy. But someone to get you through the season, even if he's not an all-star, or even if he doesn't have upside potential, a boring veteran could do just the trick. And we're going to see how this roster takes shape a little bit as the non-tender deadline's coming up. And to me, the big ones, the biggest one is what are they going to do with Ramon Laureano? Projected to get around $6 million. I would expect the other ones to be tendered. Well, I guess the big one is obviously Dylan Lee, tender him, of course. Jared Kelenic, I don't think they're going to give up on him. He'd make around $2.5-3 million. At the very least, he's a solid 4th outfielder for them. And if obviously with Acuna out, I think they feel okay at least for the first month and a half, maybe 2 months of Kelenic out there in left or right, depending on what direction they want to go in the outfield. Eli White, I could see them not tendering him. And we signed him. He's just that 5th, 6th, quad A outfielder, quad A type player. Oscar Noah, interesting one. Do I think about 2.5, 3 million. I can see them non-tendering him, but try to resign him. Kind of struggling coming back from the injury. Wasn't great this year in AAA. So that's kind of their non-tender. Oh, and then like I said, Griffin Canning, non-tender candidate, due around 5.5, 6 million. So that's an interesting one to see. I think they'll tender him a contract. I do. And they could come at spring training and not owe him anything or potentially trade him. But the Braves like their depth. And you traded for him for a reason. I know it's a salary dump, but I feel like you might have gotten the prospect route if you didn't see value in Griffin Kane, maybe 2 prospects and a reliever or something along those lines in the Jorge Soler deal. So you've got a swing guy, 5th candidate, starting pitcher in Griffin Canning. So I think they'll tender him a contract, but it's hard to know with Alex Anthopoulos. And that is really fun being a Braves fan, not knowing what he's doing and where he's going to go with these moves in the offseason. You can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on Twitter. You've been listening to Lock It Down Sports. I'm Locke Hoover. I'll talk to you next week.